If you have a wide foot, you might be familiar with the problem of finding a pair of boots that really fit you well. Maybe you've tried squeezing your foot into a pair of boots that are too narrow and it just doesn't feel very good. But thankfully, there are boots out there that will accommodate and that will give you that extra little bit of width to give you the comfort you want. And today I'm going to list what I think are 5 of the best boots for wide or flat feet. And you can of course buy all of them in the link to unisportlife.com right up there. And the sun's coming out because it's a happy day. Wide boots for you, my friends. And the first boot on my list is the PUMA Future Set 1.4, which is not only super comfortable because of the very, very soft knitted forefoot here, but also relatively welcoming towards wide-footed people because of the good amount of width that you have in the forefoot. And then I realized that the fusion fit part in the midfoot here might look a little bit narrow and slim fitting. And it might feel so at first, but the thing is that because it is a stretchy knit, it will stretch and accommodate to most wide-footed people if it has to. So it will fit a lot of people with wide feet, but you'll still get a, I would say, snug-ish fit if you have like mega wide feet or flat feet. Some people like that, some don't. But it's a good option. Fourth place, the Jumbo Legend 9 here is just what I'd call a great all-rounder because it fits a lot of people, myself included, and I have relatively narrow feet. But the secret lies in this overall shape of the boot that just has, I would say, very good general appeal. And when you combine that with this super soft K-leather upper that feels very pliable out of the box and as if it just takes to every little shape and groove and bump on your foot, it gives you the sensation that if the upper has to accommodate, it will. And when you combine that with this tongue construction, where the upper is allowed to kind of open up a little bit in the midfoot and give a bit more volume, it gives you the sensation that however wide your foot may be, the Legend 9 will at least try to accommodate. Of course, if you have like a mega wide foot, it will feel a little bit snug. But I reckon that once you break it in and the leather stretches and softens up even more, it will accommodate most people with wide feet. And that's without the leather feeling as if it'll overstretch a lot, which is also important. Now in third place, there's another PUMA boot, but this model might be one that not everyone knows. See, this is the PUMA King MIRAI, which has a super soft K-leather forefoot and a synthetic midfoot. And the deal here is that it's actually made for the Japanese market, the Asian market. And typically Asian feet tend to be a bit flatter and wider, and that's something that the King MIRAI takes into consideration. So that means that you have this K-leather forefoot that stretches nicely if you need to, but you also have a relatively deep lacing system, which again allows the upper to open up nicely in the midfoot and give you a little bit more space and volume there. But what's really good about the King MIRAI is the outsole. It's decently wide in the forefoot, but pretty wide under the midfoot and the heel, which gives you a little bit more stability and also the sensation that your foot is not hanging out too much on the side of the boot. So really good, very comfortable, no-nonsense wide-footed option from PUMA here that, you know, it just works. But in my book, the second best option if you have wide feet is the Nike Phantom GT2. And I think the images speak for themselves. I mean, it's a wide-fitting upper and there is a lot of it to really shape and stretch around however wide your foot may be. However, there's also this little sculpted thing under the arch of the midfoot, meaning that it's not just this wide, formless, knitted sausage around your foot. That's pretty good. But with that said, you know, the upper is able to mold and stretch around your foot. It gives you a lot of width to play with in the midfoot, and also it's just able to accommodate if you have some sort of weird bump or shape on your foot that it needs to mold around. So that's very nice. Now the tooling is also pretty good in terms of that underfoot stability, but you just gotta make sure that the midfoot is wide enough for you to feel comfortable. But apart from that, I mean, it's a pretty safe bet, and I think it's gonna fit most wide-footed people relatively well. It's just, there's a lot of boot to work with. But if you need it wider and you got lucky and copped the Phantom Ultras, well, they are really wide. But because they're also limited and basically sold out like that, they don't really count. Now you know that the width in these is wild. But before we get to what I think is the best boot for wide-footed people, let me also bring up a few honorable mentions, because these boots kinda also deserve it. Now, first I have the New Balance Furon V7. And the V6 is also pretty good for wide-footed people as well. But it's just a wide-fitting upper if it has to be. It's really soft and it will stretch a little bit. So if you can live with that snug speed boot-like fit, I reckon that these will make a lot of wide-footed people relatively happy. And the same thing can be said for the Nike Mercurial Vapor 15s. And I realized that a Mercurial on a list for wide boots is like, what? But hear me out, because the heel construction on the new Mercurial is a little bit wider, meaning that it opens up a little bit of the shape of the rest of the boot as well. And while it's not a mega wide boot, it is more accommodating than more or less every other Mercurial that I can remember, maybe except for the 13s. Now finally, we also have the two OGs, the Mizuno Morelia 2, made in Japan of course, and the Adidas Copa Mundials. They have soft leather, they will stretch nicely, they have de-blazing systems to open up the boot, and of course, the Morelia 2s are made for the Japanese market and you can fit and just be a lot of wide foot in here. So if you don't like the other boots on the list, give these a look. They're pretty good too. But like I said, still one left. And that is the DIADORA Brazil Elite Tech, which, yeah, I know it might be technically a speed boot, but it's also ridiculously accommodating for wide feet. And that is, of course, in part because of the full leather upper that stretches nicely, but especially because of the shape of the upper. I mean, look at it. There's a lot of room for wide feet in there. And when you combine that with the traditional U-throat, tongue, and this reasonably de-blazing system that allows you again to open up the midfoot, give a little bit more volume in there, it's just a really nice fit if you have wide feet. It's too wide for me, my narrow feet, but I mean, given the fact that the leather will stretch a lot, it is super soft, it's just a comfortable, really floaty experience. But I've saved the best part for last, and that is the tooling, in particular the forefoot of the tooling that is just a little bit wider, and that prevents that feeling of your foot hanging out over the side of the boot, which is really, really annoying. So that's another good thing. And in other words, if you have wide feet, you are in doubt, your new Italian friends will help you out. So guys and girls, 10 boots that work really well for players with wide or flat feet. Now of course, there might also be other boots, especially on the Asian market, that will perform well if you have a wide foot. But these 5 on the list will definitely do a job if you have that little bit of width on your foot. And you can of course buy all of them in the link to unisportstore.com right over there. But guys, I'm curious, which is the best wide-fitting boot you've ever tried in your life? Let me know as always in the comment section right down below. Remember, of course, to subscribe to the channel with the notifications on if you haven't done so already. And if you like learning new football skills, the playlist right down there is absolutely phenomenal. And with those words, I'll be signing off. A cheerio.